So, yeah, today I'm also going to go on a bit of a difference. Not quite a lot of difference, but still. Since there is currently a pandemic, as I know I might be aware at this present moment in time. Well, um, there this movie has been mentioned loads of times, so in this sense, this is not random at all. In this sense, I just simply am curious to see what people are referring to. I mean, from the synopsis, it seems like, and I don't normally read synopses, but yeah, the synopsis is basically what happened in the past couple of months, well, 3 months really, but well, 2 months and a half. Anyway, yeah, with regards to, so yeah, I'm referring to Outbreak, which apparently was released in 2011, so that's 9 years ago. I still haven't seen it. I do not go out of my way to watch new movies and films because there's so many one could watch, right? A whole catalog that one likely hasn't watched. I mean, it's like like ones from the 60s and such. It's not like one could be up to date from films of the 60s if uh, they weren't even born then. That that's why I mean being a current movie watcher isn't really the most sensible option. I think, in my opinion, there's already so many anyway, and not to mention current movies can simply have sequels, and I'd rather watch sequels and sequel rather than you know like the Three Mothers trilogy. I was able to compare and contrast. Instead of waiting 30 years, I waited a month at best. Didn't know how similar to speed that was, so I left a bit of time and then was curious enough and I could still remember. I mean, if you watched it 30 years ago, there's no way I could remember. Very well, no details at least. Anyway, yeah, let's watch this and see how well it compares to reality this time. Reality. I'm assuming this isn't about a plague outbreak. I'm assuming because and that was airborne as well, but that was definitely worse. Definitely. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna begin this now. Hopefully, it's not like a documentary. I mean, that's the problem with watching watching films that parallel real life too much. You know, they might seem like a documentary. Obviously, it won't be a documentary because it's not presented in the same style as a documentary. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure either that Kate Winslet will be presenting a documentary either. She's just there, but, I mentioned her, just one thing, one couldn't possibly have watched Titanic while it was actually sinking. There were, I think, some movies that weren't even any like, a year after or anything, so that's impossible. Anyway, with regards to the logos, I am have happened to be just randomly wondering why someone would call their company or whatever it is participant. I mean, it's such a weird, I mean, it's a word. It's not. I mean, it's not even a. I don't know. Uh, Company names are normally a common word. Then it doesn't get a problem. You could end up saying participant will be a participant in this venture. Yeah, well, that makes sense. But then, what about if decides not to be a participant? Participant will not be a participant in this venture. I don't think this movie is a. comedy. So I suppose that's a wrong tone to go in with, but I'm just saying it's a weird name. And of course, it begins with someone in an airport coughing. How many begin like that? And yeah, I mean, that's that. Yeah, I should probably think less useless thoughts, but anyway. With regards to the peanuts, I'm not sure what they were trying to say. That at one point they focused on them, but they're just peanuts, right? They don't cause coughing or anything. And yeah, with regards to the phone call, I'm assuming the um, director or scriptwriter, whoever, just wants people to know that this is how it begins, right? Um, I mean, there's nothing more. Um, I mean, what the phone call revealed indicated that there was intimate contact, and that's the one thing that I mean, with an airborne pathogen, it really is very easy to transmit, really very easy. Uh, so intimate contact though is a an obvious thing, obviously. I mean, it's you don't even need intimate. You just need to just touch something that someone else touched. That's it. Uh, but that's what the phone call indicated anyway. So we begin from the depths of contact per se, and she really looks bad, doesn't she? Not so much the coughing, but the sweat. It's not the same sort of sweat that one has when one exercises as such. It's different. And then, of course, there is the contact debit card or credit card, whatever it is. It is obviously that's not all that's required. It's not shown that she should later on the shopkeeper eat something with her hand or such. But that's how it all begins. So one needs to trace the things mentally, really. Right. So I suppose at this point I should assume that they show the peanuts. I mean, I'm assuming, but I'm assuming they're public peanuts or something. So people after that lady will just keep eating them. I mean, to be honest, I've never seen public peanuts before, but I'm assuming this is because they do. This movie tends to focus, it seems, on points of transmission. So someone touching a handrail in a train, they're all sweating identically. It seems like it. I'm not sure how they make. I mean, I'm not sure if it's like a prosthetic sweat or something. Um, unless they probably the easiest way to do that in a movie is to uh, ask the actors to go on a treadmill or something. I don't know. Again, I suppose it could be sort of similar to sweat. It's just usually passes. Whereas with a fever, it just stays on, I suppose. I mean, I don't think there would be sweat constantly, but it's more consistent at least than unless you're exercising at that point. That's when. So anyway, okay. Well, clearly it wants to be dramatic. I mean, and literally just 3 minutes in, and there's someone on the floor already. Uh, yeah. So I don't know if this is just uh, a I don't think this happens with a coronavirus. I don't think it does. To be no, I mean, from my understanding, people, if they happen to die, they do so in a hospital or on a ventilator at the very end, when not even a ventilator can help. I think there is then a lot before that happens. I mean, I don't think so. Unless it's not, it's probably this movie is probably not going to deal with a coronavirus. I suppose a virus of some sort, possibly, or a bacteria. I mean, bacteria infect as well. There's obviously more potentialities of infection. I think those are the two. So I mean, there's fungi as well that can that's slightly different. Mm, mm. Anyway, let's just delve in and see what is infecting people. And yeah, the folders. Now, computers have existed for over half a century. Now, I'm not saying I guess computers do not also, you know, keyboards and mice can also obviously allow, but when you have a folder, it can potentially go through a lot more hands, and well, at least this computer at least is usually more static. You probably know who used them at least, so there's that at the very least. But seriously, half a century computers have existed for, and people still use them half and half, don't they? Just you still use a lot of paper, that's for certain. And there's it's probably one of the most. I mean, in addition to pens, it's probably one of the most uh, potentials for vector. Vector. Yeah, vector risks. Right? Is it vector risks? No, I don't know. Yeah. And at one point, that long-haired guy is shown out and sweating all over, and he can barely see. And why would someone go out if they can barely see? And at this point, I really don't think it is the same sort of. I mean, I don't think it affects eyesight. Uh, no, don't think so. But then again, fevers, I guess, can do it. It's very funny. While Jude Law is going on about Minamata disease, which I suppose is well, mercury poisoning is nasty, but it's not as transmittable as an airborne virus. And she just then the one he's talking to just was about to mention H1N1, presumably. Yeah. Uh, well, I mean, coronavirus viruses are similar, not identical. But yeah, anyway, they're both airborne. So that is what's similar. So yeah, this is definitely no coronavirus. It's I've never heard of anything that causes fits. To be fair, no, I don't think there is a virus that causes fits, but of course I haven't heard of everything, so there might be. Or it might not be a virus. No, it might be something else. That would be terrifying, actually. Causes fits. Usually, fits, epilepsy itself is a structural difference in the brain, so it would be very difficult for an external agent to change the brain so drastically, I think. If that was so, if indeed something can cause seizures, and it can cause them so easily as well, then there would be a lot of hospital beds needed. I mean, presumably, unless they're only close to like 1% of everyone infected. But so far, it seems like uh, they're caused too. They're affected. I mean, well, everyone we see on screen at least, I mean, the child has only been infected recently, it seems. So yeah, it seems like it's the majority of people who are affected. It would be quite bad for health systems. Well, yeah, this is definitely different from any coronavirus. It's e- what can stop a heart? That would be a brutal virus, right? I mean, I don't think even epilepsy can do it generally, as in the generic condition of or any kind of. I mean, the people they only die as far as we know if they hit their head, not anything to do with the heart as far as we know. Yeah, this is so much more devastating than. I mean, so this is supposed to be the fifth day, and he already lost. Seeming, well, by implication, he's lost two family members, and no, um, this coronavirus is so it's it's much slower than that. I mean, it can still be fast. Uh, to be fair, I think it is slower than most. I mean, yeah, I think even the first SARS outbreak was much faster. I think, yeah, I think symptoms developed in 2 days, whereas symptoms here with COVID-19 develop in 5 days on average. Some who develop much later actually. So this in comparison, this is hmm, to be fair, I guess as movies go, I suppose, yeah. I mean, I don't know why I assumed it will be about a coronavirus or such. It's movies always do the hyperbolic, don't they? They don't do the mundane. I mean, outbreaks generally are uh, stressful, no matter what. But there's a difference. This is clearly way very much more devastating than any coronavirus could have been. Any, yeah, I think. I mean, SARS did have a higher mortality rate than COVID-19, but even that, even in comparison to SARS, this seems more infectious as well. If there was a virus like this, as depicted in the movie, it would be, uh, yeah, it would be pretty bad. So yeah, this seems to be encephalitis, at least the symptom is, and it's caused by quite a lot of things, isn't it? And yes, there is a virus that causes it. It's not sure why herpes then uh, isn't perceived more with fear than it is if it can cause encephalitis. So this seems to be an absolutely devastating condition. At least it has some antiviral medication and vaccines as well. I don't know if it's if they can really manage it well in many cases, but at least they do exist. Whereas with a novel virus, it just doesn't. Time is required for a vaccine to be created. By the way, that is the scene at the nearly 40-minute mark is revolting. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that even in a horror film. It's a pretty much horror thing. Yeah, it's do they do that? It's I suppose in autopsies they can do anything. I suppose it's just wow. This is a good thing that coronaviruses, by definition, only affect the lungs. I mean, apparently, even in encephalitis, people require ventilation, so presumably lungs can be affected somehow, even though it's a disease of the brain. How that works, actually. I need to read more about that. But at least it's just the lungs with coronavirus, yeah. Whereas this is awful. Viruses can truly cause a lot of things. So I'm reading on this enterovirus, and it can cause something as common as a cold and something as devastating as either encephalitis or even myocarditis. It's quite something. Yeah, it's kind of funny how they talk to the CDC. I wonder if they really do that. Uh, it's quite a very very strange environment, and yeah, with all the biohazard suits, are not quite the same suits that one can see in most other places. I'm not sure why. Oh yeah, I suppose it makes sense why they have transparent head boxes or whatever they're called. But yeah, anyway, it's quite something that they're just asking each other, these mundane questions. They obviously want to make a contrast between the mundane and the not so mundane. I mean, they're not doing something mundane, but they're probably doing it at this mundane pace that they got used to because they've done it so many other times before. So similarly, ask mundane questions. I mean, I think it happens in your life. Maybe not when you need to concentrate. That's concentration does require 100% usually, but don't suppose they're doing the equivalent of heart surgery right now. So incubation period less than 10 days. This is the problem with COVID-19. It has such a long incubation period. In fact, I mean, the, the virus or whatever it is in this movie is pretty devastating. But what would make it even more devastating is if the incubation period was longer, so people can infect others before dying themselves of it. I mean, it's anything that does have a high death rate would be very devastating, but uh, incubation periods 2 months ago I know as well. Yeah, and she tells that guy in the bus not to talk to anyone, not to touch anyone. Um, I don't know if this is an omission a script writers made or what, but clearly she should have also included don't touch anything or anyone because he's just going around outside of a bus touching Gage handrail, and there we go. At least somebody of the same height would be infected. Really, it's unless of course I wonder if there's any virus that can transmit by just skin. Yeah, I don't think so. I think that they probably live. Yeah, they do though live on surfaces at different rates. So I suppose it just depends on how long they live for. And when she is asking uh, Matt Damon questions there in his room, she's all wrapped up. But why is she writing on his bed? I mean, surely if she goes out and she's not as even if her gloved hands touch the book and then she touch she touches her. No, I don't get it. But why is she writing on a bed anyway? Maybe it's like it makes no sense. You know, it's quite some dark humor there. When those two are discussing the structure of the virus, and he says doesn't have anything else to do. Yeah, well, except travel the entire world. Yeah, and I thought this might not be a documentary sort of thing, but yeah, it's actually I've already learned a bit from it. Probably you should watch a straight up documentary, since movies always change some things uh, for artistic purposes. I suppose I don't know what artistic the thing they can do with this, but yeah, it's still it's I think I'm assuming it's that the structure with how different strands of RNA combine to infect different species. So I'm assuming that's real. Sounds logical. So sounds realistic, really. I don't know what else it can be. I still have no idea how this can end. This film can end. I mean, it's just half an hour in, and doesn't seem like they even began. I mean, just sequences. I'm assuming this is the sequencing aspect, but they haven't even started on a vaccine, have they? It's not like they can just develop a vaccine in the hour and 15 minutes left or whatever. Well, even if proportionally. Anyway. And yeah, he mentions that it has a rate of less than 20 and low 20s, so presumably something like 13 or even 15, low 20s would be, I guess, from 11 to 14, I guess, percent. Um, okay, so that's about 10% more than this novel coronavirus. Not quite as terrifying as a virus like Ebola is, really, but then that's not as easily transmitted, whereas this is. So yeah, this is definitely worse than the current pandemic, but it could still be worse. Could be. So you know, if if it had a higher mortality rate and a longer incubation period, that would be even more devastating. He mentioned someone's shoe, but what difference would that make? I mean, surely shoes are the last thing to be touched normally, right? I mean, there's no way shoes will touch someone's face, right? Unless in dire circumstances. And then I'm not entirely sure what exactly can leave the lab because the virus is already out, right? So I don't know exactly what he was afraid of. Hmm. And by the way, why does the epidemiologist who just arrived in Hong Kong shake someone's hand? I mean, she knows all the risks, right? She knows how risky that is, and somehow people still, I mean, people get used to the possibility uh, that not shaking hands will derive more benefit, but they still maintain this thing. Apparently, the shaking of hands was done quite a long time ago. So I wonder how much it contributed to historic outbreaks like the plague or such. Hmm. And that I'm this is I suppose this can stimulate thought. I mean, at that conference, she said that they cannot experiment on a virus if they can grow it in something, and if the virus kills every single cell they ever come in contact with, then they can experiment. I mean, that's quite question 22, isn't it? I mean, if that is true, I haven't read it elsewhere. I'm assuming it is, because otherwise. But if there was a really devastating virus that kills absolutely everything, how can it be stopped then? I mean, that is truly a conundrum, isn't it? Movies really do have a strange sense of time. So 6 minutes ago they said it was less than, I don't think they even said 100,000 infections. Suddenly we're 8 million. Really? Huh. It's quite funny how, well, kind of funny anyway. Well, not really. It's more like, it's artistic license as usual. But the fact that they imply that CCTV can actually go back to the past and you know uh, drop on conversations and such, as if do them on HD. The only difference is that it seems like peripheral vision is impaired or something for some reason. It makes it seem like it's like a partial thing where when the virus uh, affects their vision for some reason. That's what it seems like, except it's that the movie does indicate that it's CCTV, and so I wonder, I mean, is the vision impairment due to CCTV or what? Because obviously that's not the case. I mean, if there is any sort of impairment, usually it's 100%. It's not, so if it's like standard definition, it's usually a whole picture that is in SD, not just a peripheral vision or something. Unless, of course, the camera is made to not take in the periphery for some reason. I don't think that is usually such camera. Anyway, uh, you know that kidnapping side plot thing is so. Hmm, I mean, it's really confined to a movie, isn't it? I've never heard that happen in any realistic case. Nor is it practical. Vaccines take years. So is that going to just what keep her there for years or what? Hmm. And I doubt being in the front of the line makes a difference. Anyway, I mean, the vaccine is made, and I'm assuming they just must develop it, and that's that. No, I don't think there's a line necessarily that everyone will have to wait a long time for after. The longest wait, I assume, is for the vaccine developed in the first place, and that I don't think cures per se are very. I'm assuming a vaccine comes first, and then if there is ever a cure, then that comes second. I'm assuming. So a lot of assumptions that are very a lot of actions as well that are needless. Hmm. Yeah, for Scythia, the mythological cure. I don't think there is an equivalent so far in this pandemic, at least. I mean, there's loads of conspiracy theories, but I don't think there's a single substance that is supposed to. I don't think there is so far. Single substance. No, there really isn't. And it really shouldn't, I mean, convince a large amount of people, should it? Because unless there is definitive proof that it works, it shouldn't really convince people. And I don't know why people would riot over a mythological substance advocated from a site called Truth Serum. It's absurd. But at least we get a slight bit more of dark humor with regards to the wine shop being looted. You can just imagine that's the first place they go to, of course. Why not? I think you could just buy it, I suppose, but I don't know. Do they think that alcohol may cure it as well, by any chance? Yeah, what do you just want to get blind? To be fair, but I did say wines and spirits, I think, because wine on its own isn't really get you very drunk. But yeah, to be fair, though, alcohol is not really very useful, is it? I mean, it might be useful for a single day, but not really beyond it. If a vaccine takes a year to make, then unless you're getting drunk every day of the year, it's yeah, it's not very useful, is it? But a seriously question: why were they robbing a mutual? Isn't that like for insurance or something? Maybe that's that's completely a actually I think it could be a bank as well. Couldn't it? It's still a construct. I mean, both of those would be a social construct in the sense of like it's not nothing tangible that people benefit from. I mean, money is useless in such an outbreak, anyway, isn't it? Pretty much, well, mostly. Oh, all of tests, I guess, cost thousands of pounds. That's yeah, I guess money could be useful there, or not. I mean, money could really be a hindrance to an entire society. I think in such cases, clearly, it's not like money will stop a virus. It just won't. And if people can't even get tested, yeah, but it's it's quite something that that person in the supermarket just coughed in his face. Uh, yeah. So I guess halfway through this movie, we see society in a Lord of the Flies state where all hell breaks loose, and I don't think there's any place right now in the world where it's in any place is in such a situation, on such a, and this is something. I mean, if after 18 days, however long they said it was, it's already, I mean, sure, if millions have already been infected, yeah, I don't think that this coronavirus is even a single million so far, is it? No, there's around what, 100,000 or something. Jude Law plays such a rascally character, really. I mean, why is he distributing leaflets if he doesn't even have any left? Someone broken. I mean, what's the point of that? So that he's selling something he doesn't even have, really. Huh. Also, I'm just it's another thought that was stimulated. Just what you know, if people are left altogether, even people who are sick. So I mean, yeah, we're not talking about just healthy people along with sick people. Obviously, the healthy people will get sick, well, unless they're somehow immune. Um, but even sick people. Uh, 'Cause, I read recently that doctors are more likely to be more severely affected because they might get a large dose of the virus. And that was an interesting thing. I just suddenly realized, and so now this 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 movie made me wonder. I mean, even if they're sick, I mean, sick people, at least in this movie, I wouldn't even give masks. So aren't they likely to infect other sick people even more if they're just left there? I mean, if the sick person nearby has a large dose of the virus, and you know, even if there isn't, right? I mean, viruses just keep replicating. So presumably, if you put two people together who are infected, won't they just simply help in the virus replicating continually? I wonder. Right. This is just my speculation. I haven't read this or anything, but it seems logical, doesn't it? Actually, but no idea. But at least I admit that Jude Law doesn't play the most possible of wildness that can happen. Still, I mean, he's promoting something that isn't proven to be effective, but he still tries to at least rely on some sort of evidence in terms of the sociology behind this, in terms of like the CDC employee telling his relative, not sure if she's a girlfriend or, but yeah. Mm. So yeah, as mentioned earlier, there's what 35 minutes left now, and I don't know how this could end. It's funny to think that films have an ending, and they're only 2 hours would be a lot usually, and 3 hours is called an epic. Except in real life, just keeps on going on and on and on. The first day, mm, a pandemic doesn't resolve itself in hour 40 minutes. And yeah, I'll ask the monkeys. It's none of the scientists really say that, or going about their daily life, or there's somebody right now saying, "I'll ask the monkeys." Yeah, kind of like they don't have anything else to do earlier. You know, dark humor. I guess at least there's a few sentences that You know, otherwise it's just too dark, isn't it? It's not a comedy at all overall, but hey, at least there's something. And yeah, mortality rate of 25 to 30%. That is wow. Um, Currently the coronavirus has went up by only a slight bit. Like, so it was what 2% before on average, and now it's went up to 3.14. Yeah, so it's not really well proportionate. Yes, that would be a lot more, but s- s- um, I, still, I mean, it's not. So before they said it was 20%, and so potentially went up 10% now. That is a lot more, even if it's one third. So actually, yeah, 1.4 is nearly one third. It's not. Well, anyway, and is that Jude Law being called a prophet there? He isn't doesn't quite look like him. It's one of those things that seems to be him. It's likely to be him in this context of this movie, but not quite. He, yeah, he was supposed to have what tracked some bus thing. It was only mentioned. It wasn't quite. It certainly wasn't said beforehand. Yeah, what profit? There's always anyway people who say that something might happen, and when something does happen, well, you just happen to get it right at that moment. And they're constantly saying something will happen, then sure enough, sometimes something will happen. And yeah, this is supposed to be the 26th day now, at the 1 hour 10 minute mark, but that would be quite devastating if it really happened. I mean, this this is more similar to if Ebola was more infectious. I mean, it's sort of similar to devastation. Actually, that is more. So yeah, that is more. That is deadlier. But yeah, a coronavirus obviously isn't as devastating. I mean, it's been 3 months since really the equivalent of the beginning of the film. So I guess yeah, it's just not though. I mean, obviously it doesn't help that an incubation period is so long, so more people are potentially infected. So I'm not sure if it is made obvious that this virus, what do they call it, MEV apparently. I'm not sure if it's made obvious that this virus is more infectious or you know. I assume a virus is more infectious if the incubation period is longer, not the other way around. So so in this case, yeah, the only way the virus from the film is it would be even more devastating is if it had a longer incubation period. Yes, I see. Um, do they seriously use a lottery to give the first vaccines? I never read that, but never heard it or anything. That's absurd. So, but okay, whatever. Hmm. So I'm assuming there aren't enough machines to produce large amounts. One would think that there are. I mean, maybe not millions all at once, but that industrial revolution happened, and what do you know? Another attempt at humor, not very dark this time, or more like I don't know, existential humor in a way. I suppose one could say, yeah. When she asked her why they were in the shot for time passing, you know, there could be something. And there are many things, even discounting the fact that if you take out temporal lobes, then I suppose uh, people will not see time passing. Obviously, it's not an objective thing. It will never be an objective thing. I mean, time is subjective anyway. But the temporal lobes is what I think at least, right? I think it's connected to memory at least, and memory is it's literal in the name, temple. So yeah, there are though. I'm assuming uh, there is chemistry that disables temporarily the temporal lobes, so it doesn't need to be taken out. But well, that's one. Okay, well, it's not really a vaccine. I mean, vaccinating is something that is a disease. If you want to disable a part of the brain, then I guess it's not normally used anyway. And of course, we're ending with the resolution of the kidnapping. It wouldn't be movie without that, now would it? I mean, come on. Which pandemic has it ever happened in? It makes no sense. I mean, in this case, they got lucky. They got a vaccine in what, a month, 2 months? There's no way that ever happens. Right? But, whatever. Just like the kidnapping itself, it doesn't really happen, does it? And what, she ended up as a teacher in the meantime? Well, might as well, I guess. Better than texting in prison in your bed, or uh, I don't know why people think that being inside is a prison. And he actually says that there are many kidnappings in the context of the movie, at least, but in real life, I haven't heard of any at all. I mean, there certainly aren't right now. Obviously, the coronavirus isn't quite as destructive, and maybe I haven't read widely, but I really have not ever heard or read about any such cases. I mean, it doesn't even make much sense, does it? And what do you know? You never had the virus, no antibodies. Who would have guessed? Like, you could look at his face and anybody could tell, right? Well, anybody except those who do, uh, have a certain mindset to follow per se, I suppose. But seriously, uh, so can they prosecute him based on lying? I don't know. What kind of building in the background is that? Is that like a church or something? Didn't think there were many such much such architecture in the US. And yeah, this guy here is I suppose he's the equivalent of a certain religious person in real life. And Mr. Crumley here doesn't have any religious inclinations, it seems, but I suppose they did that so as not to be prejudiced against any one or another, but which makes sense, because it could be any religion really. I mean, in every country, I suppose, if such people, obviously such people hook onto religion, so people could then be hooked onto their um, stuff. But in every country, it could be a different religion, so yeah, makes sense. Makes sense not to have. Yeah. And, yeah, 12 million other people, as crazy as he is. If only it's just 12 million. The vaccine isn't for nasal. I'm seriously hoping it's not an injection. It must be awful to have an injection. There, right? Seems like it wasn't, but I didn't quite hear a puff or anything. And by the way, there's a picture, just a single picture. I don't think it even moves, or if it does, just does for a few seconds. Um, in the car park, while the sun is shining, and there's this jolly music in the background. I didn't think though with any reflective sun it could be, I don't know. It's a nice picture, isn't it? With the I don't know, it's reflecting sort of in the middle, not the peripheries. And the clouds are parting and they're in the background as well. I really didn't think that a car park full of cars could be an almost aesthetic image. It's bizarre, but the color contrasts, the hues are interesting. Hmm. And yeah, inside that stadium, apparently, they're vaccinating them there. Why exactly do they have? I wonder why they have SARS and H1N1 along with this MEV vaccine. Uh, I mean, sure, I guess all of them need to be frozen, but what's the point? I mean, unless people are also being infected with the other two, there's no point, is there? Hmm. And it's kind of funny, kind of, that the scientist who develops, or at least, yeah, tests the vaccine. I doubt it's usually one scientist that develops a vaccine anyway. Sussman in this movie, anyway, they began the whole process, so clearly she's not the only one. But she does have the courage to test it herself, which not many real life scientists do. Well, it's not very, very well. They could do if they think it wouldn't totally destroy them, but um, you know, I wonder why don't they test it on people who are immune first? I mean, at least if the virus breaks out and isn't contained, so it doesn't act as a vaccine, at least they're immune, right? I wonder if they do that. So at least they know where it could break out, and they could, assuming they can then count the antibodies and see, no way, that's uh, yeah. Anyway, I was going to say, yeah, she has this permanent smile on her face, and it began as soon as she found she tested the vaccine. Strange. I'm not sure why. I'm assuming she's not anyone famous. Just I've never seen her before, at least, and so I wonder why they didn't. You'd think they normally decide to put someone in the position. You know, I mean, they did with the other three at least. And, uh, um, yeah, yeah. Finished watching it, and suppose it's kind of interesting. It wasn't, as powerful as I don't know. They thought that having an extra kidnapping would make it necessarily more compelling or something. Anyway, yeah, it's but yeah, to be fair, I mean, if to really get proper information, I mean, one needs a documentary, obviously. Um, it was okay. I suppose it's as I thought. Though a movie would need more than 1 hour 14 minutes to really. 1 hour 40 minutes is nothing comparison to real pandemic. This like it's this is the third month of the coronavirus, and it's not even. I don't think we're even halfway there yet. Certainly not halfway through for vaccine. The vaccine was seriously rushed, it seems. I mean, how did they go from not being able to even grow it on a sample to suddenly having a vaccine? That was a bit of a leap there. Um, yeah, otherwise, it was interesting, I suppose, but it's I suppose a strange mix. Seems to imply at the end that the felling of trees is the very origin of this particular contagion, at least. which I suppose could be in real life, but um, it's a bit of a stretch though. So yeah, it wasn't too badly done. Yeah, I don't know how it could be done any better. So I suppose mm, it was okay. I suppose just you know I don't know why they needed to get any famous people at all to play the main parts. I guess they could have done without it because otherwise, they still had a lot of extras that were known. So, do they think that famous name would give a doctor any more credibility? So she went from being a passenger on Titanic to being a doctor. Anyway, so that's that's that. Oh, and isn't it interesting how they had a hairstylist to Matt Damon, as if among the rubble and societal chaos and upheaval, yeah, his hair is the thing that needs to be taken care of.